Grace Life. I think that's on. There it is. Good to have all of you here. Let me start over. Really good to have all of you here at Grace Life here in El Paso, as well as all of you who are joining us around the United States, as well as all over the world, literally. I'll tell you what, we have people everywhere in the world that are joining us online. Of course, it's not live. I wish we were live, but we can't. That's one of those things that just is a little too expensive and technical and all that kind of stuff. But we do. It'll be posted on probably about Tuesday morning, and send an email to all these people and all that kind of stuff. So we're just glad to have all of you with us, joining us wherever you're at. Let me just welcome you. This actually is week number 3 of our series that we started a few weeks back. We missed a couple of weeks because of the flood here in the church and trying to get everything dried out. So we've missed the last 2 weeks quite literally. And so today we're actually in part 3 of our series called Ludicrous. And in this series what we're doing is we're looking at a story in the New Testament where Jesus cast a demon out of a man. And the Pharisees, well, scribes and Pharisees began accusing Jesus of casting out demons by Satan himself, as if Satan were going to do that, right? As if Satan were going to cast out his own demons out of a person. That's why I called it ludicrous, is because they're accusing Jesus of doing some things that even the most common person would say, that's stupid. Why would you even say such a thing? And yet they said it just right out in big brought up, wide open public. And they began to accuse Jesus of casting out this demon or this unclean spirit. Do you remember the name of the demon? Anybody tell me the name of the demon? Nope, that's a different one. We looked at legend a while back. We did kind of look at that as well. His name was Legion, because in that particular instance, because they were many. In this particular case, he cast a demon out of this guy who was mute. So his name was Mute. I thought that was kind of interesting, that this particular demon that was known just by what his job is, if you want to call it that. Kind of interesting thought, and so it kind of causes me to think about those things in a little different light myself. So in response, Jesus tells this parable about a man who cleaned up his life, got everything straightened out. He quit smoking, he quit drinking, he quit chewing, and he quit running around with women to do. He got all that stuff straightened out, and yet Jesus said that, as he points out in this parable, that simply cleaning your life up on the outside is probably the most dangerous thing that you can do. It's probably the most dangerous thing that you can do. Because unless you fill that void, when you clean up your life and you get everything straightened out, you become a good person and you do all the right things, that you're supposed to do, and not stop doing all the wrong things that you're not supposed to do and all that kind of stuff. The problem is, if you don't fill that void with Jesus Christ, then he says that Satan returns. Check it out. He says, here's the parable. I hope we got that. There it is. When the unclean spirit goes out of a man, it passes through waterless places, seeking rest and not finding any. It says, I will return to my house from which I came. And when it comes, it finds it swept and put in order. Remember what we said? That he's cleaned up his life. He's done all the things he's supposed to do. He's becoming a good person, or he or she is becoming a very good person. All those different kind of things. And so when the demons come back, Satan comes back, he says, it's all put in order. Then he goes and he takes along 7 other spirits more evil than himself. That's an interesting thought. I don't know. Is there different levels of evil? I suppose there probably are. From a human standpoint, I'm sure there are. Being mute would not be quite as evil as being a murderer, right? Just for an example. So you go more evil in itself, and they go in and live there, and the last state of that man has become worse than the first. So Jesus is really telling us here, bottom line is that trying to cleaning up your life on the outside, becoming a good person without filling that void with Jesus Christ, is the most dangerous thing that you can possibly do. And yet religion teaches that all the time. Straighten up your life, quit sinning, do all the right things, all that kind of stuff. It's a horrible idea. So as long as Jesus brought up the subject of demons and those kind of things, I thought this was probably a pretty good opportunity, pretty good time for us to talk about some of that stuff. I don't know that we've ever really talked about demons or demon possession. If we have, it's been a long, long time ago. There are a few things about demons and demon possession that might be helpful for us to understand before we actually get into the meat of the story, if you want to look at it in that direction. Last time, and I know that's been several weeks ago, we began looking into this whole demon possession thing, and what we discovered so far is that demons or unclean spirits or evil spirits or whatever that you want to call them, they are, the first thing is that they are spiritual beings. That they are spiritual beings. Literally what we would call fallen angels. Because you remember that Satan in the beginning, way back before the earth was even formed, Satan decided that he was the greatest angel in heaven at that point in time. But what are angels? Who created angels? Who created angels? God did. Okay, so you created a created being to begin with, but he was the greatest of all angels, and he got this little bit of pride in him, a whole lot of pride in himself, and decided, well, I'll just take over in God's position. And that's what he tried to do. And because of that, God had to cast him out of heaven, or at least maybe he just left God's presence because he couldn't stand to be with God anymore. And because of that, he took with him a whole bunch of other demons and that kind of thing. So they're all spiritual beings, and that's really where these things come from. They all followed Satan in his rebellion against God. So, and spirits by default then do not have physical bodies. They are spirits. And because they are spirits, they do not have physical bodies. As a matter of fact, that's exactly what the Bible says about God even, isn't it? That God is spirit, and those that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Yeah, God is a spirit. And yet God loves us enough that he sent his son Jesus in human form so that we would know who God is. So we could learn who God is from that aspect. If it weren't for that, we probably never really would know God in a very intimate sense, because he is spirit. And yet God became a human being and dwelt on this earth, and then and has showed us who he is. So that means that because they are spirits, because evil spirits, demons, whatever you want to call them, are spirits, unclean spirits are spirits, then they cannot be heard by the human ear. In other words, they don't have voices in that sense. They're spirits. It is necessary that they have a body to be able to speak through, or to speak for them, if you want to call it that, in that respect. They're not able to do that on their own. It also means that they cannot commit any acts of evil without using someone to do it for them, or to do it through them, whichever way you want to view that particular aspect. So I find it kind of interesting that all of the modern concepts that we see on TV and in movies, and the ideas that people have about evil spirits, or about demons, or about spirits. Let's not call them evil or good either way. Let's just say about spirits. Because there's a lot of that spiritualism around our world today. There's a lot of that stuff, ghost hunters and all those different kind of things that we see on TV. All of those ideas and all of those things include the idea that they are visible in some form or another. Is a spirit visible? No, it's not. No, by definition, a spirit is invisible. So, the modern idea, and this probably isn't such a modern idea, I don't suppose, is that spirits, you can see spirits. It's just that you got to be looking in the right place at the right time, and you got to be tuned into the right frequency and all those different kind of things. Look, there it is, right there. Did you see that? Let me play the video back, right? There, did you see that? Is it possible? No, because they are spirits. They are invisible to begin with, right? All of this kind of stuff, as well as, them moving furniture or slamming doors or all different kind of things that people say happen in their houses, and the stuff that you see on TV and all kind of stuff. Oh, I heard that. Did you hear that? And of course, we're gullible. We say, I think I did. I think it hurt. I'm scared now. We've got an evil spirit among us. Right? It's power of suggestion. And we're going to be talking about that in a minute as well. So the idea is that as long as you're tuned into the right channel, and if you got the right perception and all different kind of things, that you're able to see them in some form. But by definition, they're invisible. Meaning that they have no power whatsoever to move furniture or slam doors or creak floors or cast shadows or any of those kind of things. As a matter of fact, all the accounts that we have in the Bible, which is the only place where capital T truth is found. So if you reject the Bible, then, okay, anything goes at that point. Really, literally, anything goes at that point. I accept the Bible as being the truth by which all other truth is measured. The Bible is the truth by which all other truth is measured. And all of the accounts that we have in the Bible about evil or unclean spirits and the working of Satan, none of them ever do anything without using someone, a physical body, a human voice, and hands to accomplish their evil deeds. Never do you have evil spirits or demons doing things that are not used where they're not using a physical body of some kind. Even at the Sea of Gennesaret, where we talked about last week, a few weeks ago, about the demon named Legion, because they were many. When Jesus cast them out, he cast them out into the hogs, and there's a physical body, right? So they can inhabit animals, obviously. Of course, what happened was they were demons and they're crazy, and they took the hogs, and all the hogs were drowned in the sea, which caused a whole other scene in that particular place. So, another question then that we need to think about. Why is it that Satan seems to be everywhere all at the same time? Matter of fact, that's one of the things that cause people to believe and to think that Satan is at least as great as God, if not greater. Right? A lot of people fear Satan a whole lot more than they fear God. Well, you shouldn't fear God to begin with. That's a misnomer in the Bible. It's a mistranslation. It's not fear. It's reverence, or, in awe, to stand in awe of God. You want to fear something, fear Satan, sure. But there's a lot of people that think that Satan is greater than God in that respect. So why does it seem that Satan seems to know everything and to be everywhere, all that kind of things? Well, I guess I've talked about two things. Let's cover the first thing first, about knowing everything. It seems like Satan knows everything, but God is the only one who is omniscient or all-knowing. He's the only one who is. Satan is not all-knowing. But the reason it seems that Satan knows you so well, that Satan seems to know exactly what you're thinking and where you're going to go next and all those different kind of things and what's happening, all those different kind of things, is because he understands your personality type, who you are as an individual, better than you ever will. I guarantee you. You can go all psychologists you want to study your particular personality type, but I'll tell you what, Satan has been around a long time. He's been around since before the beginning of this creation, and he has studied human nature since that time. He is the greatest studier of human nature, and he knows your personality type. He knows who you are, and he's a really, really good guesser at what you're going to do next. And that's all he can do is guess. That's why he's not always right. He's right a lot. He's right a lot, but he's not always right. So he definitely does not know everything, because only God is omniscient. So because he's been studying human nature and all those kind of things, he can play the odds better than anyone on earth ever has any hope of doing. He knows how to play the odds, and he's good at it. That's why soothsayers, fortune tellers, those kinds of things seem to be so accurate, is because Satan knows who you are. He understands your personality type. It's just like your own kids. If you have kids, it's like your own kids. You know what they're going to do next, don't you? And magnify that by 500,000%. Satan knows exactly what you're going to do next. Most of the time. Not all the time. And that's why Paul is so quick to warn us in 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 12 when he says, "Therefore let him who stands, let him who thinks he stands, take heed that he does not fall." Right? We think we got this whole thing figured out, you know. We think, well, we got it all figured out. No, we don't. We're playing into Satan's hand at that point in time, I guarantee you. And we're going to find ourselves in big trouble. So in addition to that fact, the fact that he is a really good guesser, he has studied human nature and he knows who you are, he studied human nature, he knows your particular personality type, I attended a seminar, it's been quite a few years ago now, and the guy that was giving the seminar went through this big long spiel about a person that they knew in a particular church denominational setting that had taken through each and every step of what that person did to destroy that church. And then at the end he said, and every one of you can name that person. The whole time he was saying that, I said, how did you know this guy? You know, I was thinking of a person I knew that was exactly like that, done everything exactly like he had said, exactly to the T. Well, that convinced me that just like we read in the Bible, where capital T truth is found, certain demons have certain jobs, and they do it very well. And they know which personality type to use to accomplish that. It's really quite a simple thing, right? So the fact is, since Satan knows all those things, since Satan is a really good guesser and knows your personality type, Satan is also able then to speak to our human spirits. And after all, that part of us that is really us is our human spirit. It's that part of us that is eternal and is created in God's image. Is our eternal spirit. So Satan is really good at helping you to give in to those things that he knows you want to give in to begin with. He knows what tempts you the most. I guarantee you he knows what tempts me the most. I guarantee he does. And when I fall for it, I'll make a personal confession here, just so we got understanding. So it help you to understand maybe where your life is at even. Is that when I fall for Satan's tactics, and I fall big. I don't fall little, I fall big. I take it hook, line, and sinker. You know, and love every minute of it. Love every minute of it, you know. And when it's all over and I begin to think, oh my God, what did I just do? And who are the people that are closest in my life that I might have hurt through this? And then and then I can name that demon. Anybody want to guess? For me, his name is Panic. Yeah. Panic. Including panic attack. Yeah. It's wonderful. It's awesome. You'll love it. No, it's not. Man, I tell you, seriously, that's what he does with me. What does he do with you? Think about it. You need to think about that. And what I do is I name that demon and I ask Jesus to take care of him. He does. Amazingly, he does. That's the only way to get through it. The only way. I've tried other things, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I think what helped me is just to know that the name of this demon was Mute. The one that she was cast out. Help me to name the demon that likes to attack me. Okay, so let's look at some other things, because I think we need to go on from here and understand some other things as well. So Satan's really good at helping you to give into those things you want to get, that you already want to get into anyway. He knows that. And he says, look at that. Doesn't it look like fun? It can't hurt. Who's going to know? Who's going to find out? They'll never see. They'll never know. It'll never happen. You're good. Don't worry about it. Well, sure enough, it's not true. He's lying to you the whole time, and we just fall for it. I do. We just fall for it all the time. So he doesn't have to be able to make you do anything. There are a lot of people that like to say, well, you remember the old saying years ago, the devil made me do it? Who was that? Flip Wilson or somebody like that used to say that? I don't know. The devil made me do it. No, he didn't. No, he did not. He made the suggestion, but you fell for it because you wanted to fall for it. He did it in that particular way because he knows that's who you are. Now, those things that tempt you wouldn't bother me a bit, probably, you know. Then the things that really are tempting to me, probably you'd go, do what? Why would you even consider such a thing, you know? Right? It's the same thing. It happens all the time because each of us are different. Each of us are different. Okay, so he can't. Well, why? Because, well, he can't make you do anything. He just knows all those things, and he's able to make those suggestions in your heart and your mind and give you the opportunities, and all he has to do is stand back and let you do the rest. It's that simple. So the Bible says, and after he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, this is exactly what happened with Jesus. After he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he then became hungry. Now, let me ask you a question here. What do you think Satan's next suggestion is going to be? It's going to be about food, ain't it? It is. Obviously. It's so obvious it just slaps you in the face, and yet it happens with us all the time as individuals, and we don't see it coming somehow or another, right? It's because we're all looking at ourselves and all interested in what we're doing. So it has to do something. Well, look at the very next verse, exactly what happens. And the tempter came and said to Jesus, if you're the Son of God, command these stones to become bread. It's that simple. You're hungry. You've been fasting for 40 days and 40 nights. You have the power. What's the big deal, right? Who's going to... You're in the middle of the desert. Who's going to know if you turn the stones into a little bit of bread to get you so you can make your way back out of here? You don't think that was a temptation? How many of you ever been really hungry? Everything looks good at that point, doesn't it? Everything starts looking good. Doesn't matter. I always like those, like the Bugs Bunny cartoons where he's not, or wherever it is, stuck on a ship out in the ocean, and they're starving to death, and he looks at his buddy, and he became the turkey, you know, nice drumsticks to pull off the side, you know, those kind of things. Yeah, it's the same thing, man. Everything starts to look good at that point in time, and you can bet after 40 days and 40 nights of Jesus fasting and praying and all that kind of stuff that it would have been that'd be a strong temptation. You have the power. Nobody's here. Nobody's going to see you. As long as you don't say nothing, I won't. Yeah, right. He's the first one that's going to tell on you. I guarantee you he's going to ruin your life every way he possibly can. So that's a very logical suggestion that Satan has made to God, to Jesus Christ. I mean, after all, he is the Son of God. One last thing before we kind of move on a little bit. Why does Satan seem to be everywhere at the same time? I mentioned that a little earlier. Let's look at it in a little more detail. He is not omniscient or omnipresent. He is not omnipresent, nor is he omniscient. We just talked about that. He doesn't know everything, and he is not everywhere at the same time, even though a lot of times it seems like he is. He seems like right at the worst possible moment in time, he's there. And he's always there. He's always there. Isn't he? Well, I'd have to say he is. Every time I'm at my lowest, that's where he's at. He's ready to help you out in any way he can to let you give in to any and every temptation that's possible. So even though it may seem like Satan is everywhere all at the same time, you need to know that God is the only one who is omnipresent. However, the reason why it may seem like Satan is everywhere at the same time, the way that Satan accomplishes this sleight of hand, and that's what it basically is, the way Satan makes it look like he is everywhere at the same time and causes people to think that Satan is greater than God, is as we began our little talk together this morning, is that there was bazillions of angels that followed Jesus or followed Satan in his rebellion. Why was that one man over by the Sea of Gennesaret, right? That had legion of demons in one person. That gives you the idea that there are bazillions of demons. There's only one Satan, but he has bazillions of other followers that jump at his every time he barks. They're jumping. They're doing whatever it was as he says. And all of them are going to carry out, their intent is to carry out the very purposes and intents of Satan himself. So that's what Satan does, and he's really good at it. So when Satan rebelled against God, he took a bazillion people with him, a bazillion angels with him, I should say that, and those are his emissaries who seem to be everywhere at the same time. And I guess in a sense, the demons are probably everywhere kind of all the time because there's so many of them. You know, it's like filling up a room with people, you know, instead of one person. So what about today? Let's go to the next step. What about today? Is there demon possession in our day and time, or is that just something that happened in the Old Testament or maybe New Testament times? Well, I'm going to say absolutely there is demon possession in our day and time. I'm going to say the demon possession is as real today as it was in Jesus' day. I don't think there's any doubt about it. In my mind, there is no doubt about that whatsoever. Check out what it says in Luke chapter 8 and verse 29. For it, speaking of the demon, had seized him many times, and he was bound with chains and shackles, and kept under guard, and yet he would break his bonds, and be driven out by the demon into the desert. This is the man by the Sea of Gennesaret, the one who had the demon who was called Legion, because they were many. Okay, same guy. So for this demon, it seized him, and all these different kind of things, and all that stuff was going on in his life. Have you ever seen that happen today? Yeah, you have. You may have attributed it to something else, but you've seen it. You see it in the movies. Well, that's not just all fairy tales. But you know what? We see a lot of that with all different kinds of things, with drug addictions and alcohol addictions and those kind of things. You see this stuff all the time. It's everywhere. I mean, think about the news reports even that you see, and the TV reports you see on the TV. Those things are also acted out in movies, of course. The effects that drugs and alcohol have on the lives of people is almost beyond comprehension. It really is. It's almost beyond the stuff that they do or don't do, not only to their own bodies, but to other people even, you know. I can remember seeing, it's been a lot of years ago now, but there was a new drug that was out there that they had said was called angel dust. I don't even think it's probably not even still around anymore. There's so many other kinds of, what do they call them, designer drugs these days. But that was new at that particular point in time. And I remember seeing on the news that there was a guy that was on, they said after that they kind of had done a whole kind of documentary on it about angel dust and how bad it was for people. What this guy had done, he was on a two-story building, and the police were after him. He jumped off a two-story building, broke both legs, and still was running away. And when the police went to catch him, and of course they caught him, but when they finally caught him, it took 5 cops to keep him down. And they said that they had to be really careful because this guy was breaking his own bones trying to get away. Is that not demon possession? Recently, I saw. I think I'm gonna just give an idea. I think it was at Sturgis at Bike Week up there, but there was a guy that was given trouble, and the cops tased him like 5 times, and he was still just coming at him like, go for it, shoot me again. You know, you've been tased. Would you do that? Could you do that? No, you lay on the ground and scream and groan for 5 seconds until they shut that thing off, you know, and and then you're sore for 3 days afterward. No, they shot him like 4 or 5 times with a taser, and he just kept coming. Big dude. Come on, hit me again. All right, what do you do? Well, you shoot him with something else, what you do, I guess. Is that not demon possession? I would say yes. We're seeing it. We see it all around us, all the time. So, let me caution you at this point. Let me give you a real strong word of caution. I am not, big capitals, N-O-T, capital N, capital O, capital T. I am not saying that drugs are Satan. I didn't say that. But what you do need to know is that the abuse of drugs or alcohol or being addicted to anything, and I'll put that caps as well, anything that is an addiction within our lives, whether it's food or porn or your job or codependency or religion or TV or video games or your spouse or your good looks or your cell phone, I don't care. Any addiction that we have with our lives, anything that is something that controls your life, leaves you open to Satan's control. It's not the substance itself. It's the fact that we have given ourselves over to that and we leave ourselves open for the control of Satan. Well, why is that? Well, because that has just become the Lord of your life. If it's an addiction, something you can't give up, that is the Lord of your life, not Jesus. That's the Lord of your life. And it leaves us open to Satan's suggestions and for him to gain access into our very soul and to severely increase the effectiveness of his suggestions. We talked about that a moment ago, remember? Satan makes suggestions to your mind, and he knows where you're tempted the most. But you know what? When your defenses are down, I'll tell you what, suggestions come real easy. And you give in to those suggestions real easy. It's not a problem. So when we leave our defenses down in that way, that's what we open ourselves up for, quite literally. Which is exactly why Satan waited until Jesus said, think about this. Why did Satan wait the entire time, 40 days and 40 nights that Jesus had fasted in the desert before he came to Jesus? Because that's when he was his weakest moment. That's why. That's where he waits for you. It's your weakest moment. And we weaken ourselves when we give into those things. And we have those addictions and those temptations with our life. Which is exactly why Satan waited until before he began to make his suggestions to Jesus. Suggestion. You're the Son of God. True? Yes. You have the power to turn rocks into bread. True? Yes. Well, then go for it. Nobody's here. Nobody's here. Do you not also have those same kind of powers? Well, not to make bread out of rocks, but we have the power to do what we want to with our lives. God is not going to stop you from making your own decisions, doing your own thing. But again, the power of suggestion is the only thing that Satan has at his disposal. He can't make you do anything or you don't absolutely give your consent to. But you know what? When our defenses are down, we give our consent to a lot of things we would never do when we're standing strong. That's why Paul said, you think you're standing, look out. Look out, dude. You're kind of in a dangerous place there. You're not as strong as you think you are. So the fact is, the power of suggestion is a very effective tool in getting someone to do what you want them to do. Is it not? Remember when we were kids, and when I was real little, and my little brother would come to me and say, he had finally had something he could get me on, you know. He'd come to me and he'd say, Mom says you're supposed to stop doing that. Or Mom says you're supposed to go clean your room or whatever it is. You know, he's got something he can tell me I've got to do. You know, he's got the authority. And I said, well, is that exactly what she said? Go. I don't know. Let me go check. Right? Power of suggestion is all it takes. That's a very small thing when you're small children. But you know what? Those things don't stop in your life. Satan still makes those suggestions to you, and he's very, very subtle, and he's really good at it. Especially when you know that when he knows that you're weak, where your weakest points are within your life. And that tool, knowing the weakest points in your life, and knowing who you are, and the power of suggestion, is a tool that is exponentially multiplied when your defenses are down. Stay strong in the Lord, in the power of His might, not in your own. Because our inhibitions are severely decreased when we allow ourselves to be, put in positions like that, whether it's your addiction, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whatever it might be. So our personal desire to carry out the lusts of the flesh leaves the door open for Satan's suggestions to become even more alluring than might otherwise be. Okay, so last question. We're gonna stop here for today. Last question, I would assume, is probably on some or maybe many of your minds at this point in time, is: can a Christian be possessed by a demon or by Satan? I want you to hear me carefully, and I want to say this directly. Absolutely, unequivocally, no, you cannot. You belong to the Lord Jesus Christ. There is not room in you for both. There's not room in this town for both of us, right? There is not room in this town for both Jesus and for Satan. Where Jesus is, Satan has no place. He cannot live there. He cannot possess you. However, he can give you those suggestions. And Satan can give you those suggestions, and he can still allow you to do those things. He can still cause those things to happen. He can give you those suggestions and let you run with it all that you want to. He's still able to do that. And those demons are many, and they will attack you at the greatest opportunity. When you least expect it, that's where they're going to be. So the fact is, Jesus is in your life at this point in time, and you don't need to worry about being possessed of Satan. However, you can come under the control of those demons. You can allow your life to be controlled by those things if you don't keep your defenses up. And that's why Jesus said, listen, when a strong man keeps his house safe, if he's armed and dangerous, you're good. Because anytime they attack, you're ready. It's when you let your defenses down, that's when you're vulnerable. And we can be controlled by those demons and those kind of things that happen with our lives, but we can never be possessed by a demon or by Satan. So don't worry about that. I'm just telling you that you need to stay strong in the Lord and in the power of His might, knowing that He is the one who bought you and paid for you, and you belong to Him. And the only thing that Satan has at his disposal at this point is to destroy your life, to destroy your witness, and to cause you into, well, actually, I'll guarantee you, number one thing Satan wants you to do, number one thing in a Christian's life that Satan wants you to do is to destroy your life. Either slowly or quickly, don't matter. The quicker the better, of course. But if he can get you to destroy your life slowly, that works too. That's cool. Whether it's addictions of any kind, he uses that. Or whether it's just your own mind that plays on you. That's good enough.